Good morning, everyone. I will call to order the regular board meeting of the Board of Election Commissioners for the City of Chicago. My name is Maricel Hernandez. I'm the chair, and with me is Commissioner June Brown.
Present.
And Commissioner William Cressy.
Also present.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the consideration of the agenda. Are there any proposed changes? If not, we'll move to the approval of the regular board meeting minutes of April 12th, 2022. Is there a motion?
So moved by Commissioner Brown.
Seconded by Commissioner Cressy.
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please state aye.
Commissioner Brown votes aye. Sorry.
That's okay.
And Commissioner Cressy also votes aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. Next is the Executive Director's Report. Mr. Holliday.
Morning, Madam Chair and fellow commissioners. Last week, along with the Assistant Director, Sandra Sperry, and our Dominion rep, met with Ed Michalowski, Director of the County Elections, and their Dominion rep about sharing resource for audio recording and ballot tabulation, ballot proofing for the language ballots, and well as the touchscreen. We have 135,000 second notices from the mail canvas ready to be mailed. The notice is a forwardable notice. It will be mailed forwarded to the voter at their new address. If they lived in the city, they can fill it out and mail it back. If they moved out of the city, they will fill that out and mail back to us. On Saturday, I was one of the panelists at a community meeting where the topics were voter education and registration, shared information on registering to vote, early voting, and permanent vote by mail roster, and the need for judge of elections and election coordinator. I put emphasis on the community helping educate and spread the word about the June 28th primary election, since the voters in Chicago aren't used to voting in midsummer elections. Election day voting sites, IBW Union Hall, having a meeting today to discuss with their staff, and we will have an answer by 2:30 today if we can use that as an election day voting center. The Wintrust Arena, our facility coordinator is in meeting with them today as well. We are scheduled to have drop boxes at Wrigley Field and the United Center. Well, they're talking about drop boxes, but they're still waiting for the Bulls to see if they're going to be eliminated out of the playoffs for us to possibly use it as a voting center. So attended meetings with the polling place and Chicago Public Schools on the use of schools and public facilities as polling place. So that's my report for today, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions?
Yes, just to clarify for the record, the second mailer, if they receive it and they still live within the city but move within the city and mail it back, we will register them under their new address.
Yes, we would.
And if they return it to us and they've moved outside the city, you didn't mention what happens there. Do we then remove them from our roster?
Yes, we will cancel them because we have a written notification with their signature that they no longer live in the city.
Okay, just wanted that for the record. Thank you, Charles.
Mm-hmm.
Charles, if I could just add on to your report about the meeting on Saturday.
Yes, you can. Go ahead, Lance.
Okay, it was a call meeting that was a community meeting that was held at St. Edmund's Church, and it was a great turnout. In fact, we had it was a very lively meeting. It lasted a little bit longer than we thought.
Yeah.
And it went real well. And I'm just very pleased that Charles was out there, and I forgot her name. Geneva was out there, and Geneva took registration. And when she's out there, the folks out there just adore her. So it went real well, and I just want to thank you.
That's great.
I want to thank Lance. He was like the moderator. He kept things going, you know. If I got a little stuck, he was there to give me none, but it all worked out well, and I thank him for that.
It was
Yeah.
a great meeting.
Moderators are always good, especially when they're on your side.
Exactly.
Okay.
By the way, Charles, just to point out, on election day, you were talking about a drop box at Wrigley Field. The Cubs are playing Cincinnati that day at Wrigley Field. So come on out and bring your ballot, and maybe they do a promotional about that.
Yeah, we'll make sure our Max Fever, our
He's
public
on here.
relations guy, he'll know how to really push that.
Good, good. Okay. Thank you, Charles. Next, we will hear from our Assistant Executive Director, Sandra Spera.
Good morning, and thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
As of today, the vote by mail department has processed a total of 58,606 vote by mail applications. The early voting sites have been secured for this June 22nd primary election. The Judges Department, as of yesterday, has 5,042 election judges assigned, which includes 277 high school students. The total number of pending election coordinators is 1,491. The last day for committee persons to assign judges is Friday, April 29th. The over-the-counter judges assignment starts April 30th. The language community service representatives will start recording the audio ballot this week. Meetings are taking place to complete the planning of the mock election for both systems, the e-poll book, and the voting equipment. And finally, I continue to monitor projects at the warehouse on a weekly basis. And that is all I have.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
None for me.
Okay. If not, I will then proceed with our Public Information Director, Max Fever. Good morning, Max.
Good morning, everybody. Sorry for the delay on my part. A few updates from our communications department. We are working on both the second notice, which is a follow-up to our canvas, as well as our household mailing, which will be going out both in May and June for our next major communications to voters. We are also working on our press conference coming up on May 19th as we get ready for early voting and to announce all the early voting sites, as well as all the other ways that people can vote ahead of the June 28th election. Unless there's any questions, that was most of the meat of what I had planned to update today.
Great. Okay. Thank you. We will then proceed to old business, infrastructure projects and changes in election administration, voting equipment, and electronic poll books. I think we did talk a little bit about Dominion and what we're doing with Dominion. Is there any other updates?
No other updates, Madam Chair.
Okay, and the poll books, electronic poll books, we've been working on those with our vendor. Okay. Under legislation, Mr. Lasker, is there anything?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The state legislature is not in session at the moment. There are, however, some news legislatively, potentially anyway, out of the Chicago City Council. Yesterday, there were reports that there's a proposal being floated by the Hispanic Caucus to have the City Council today, I believe, to adopt the other plan, the second plan from, I think, the United Coalition, is that what they call it?
No.
So just as a reminder, this is a system that was called yesterday by one columnist in a newspaper an arcane and complex statutory system. I don't think it's really all that complicated once you just read it and grasp it. But remember that you can only sign, as an alderperson, you can only sign one of these petitions. So the Hispanic Caucus has for a while been making comments in the public newspapers about wanting to amend their original proposal that they submitted back in December. They can't do that because they can only sign one petition. But if the City Council actually passes an ordinance now, that then wipes out the petitions that were filed and allows those groups to refile what would be called a substitute ordinance. So the Hispanic Caucus is literally apparently asking the City Council to adopt the other plan as an ordinance, which would then cancel out the petitions that were filed and give the Hispanic caucus an opportunity to refile as a substitute ordinance. So the news reports are that something like that may or may not happen today. Obviously, we're keeping our eyes on it, and we'll let you know. As far as legislation, that's all I've got for today.
Is there what's the deadline by which this would have to be done?
The deadline is actually statutorily 40 days before the election. These are, of course, laws that were drafted long before early voting was invented. And back when we only had absentee ballots, you had to have, so we didn't have the mail-in voting that's as robust as it is now. So I did speak previously with the attorneys who are working with both the city council and the clerk's office. Everybody has promised me that they're not going to wait until the end there. So hopefully, if anything is going to happen, it'll either happen today or not. But we'll just have to see.
Okay.
Adam, according to that Sun-Times article, the city council meeting is tomorrow.
Oh, okay, excuse me.
Wednesday. Yeah.
Okay, and it's the Latino Caucus and Change Illinois. That's the group, right?
They're now united, and they want to be able to submit another proposal. Of course, the people from that organization can't sign these petitions can only be signed by the alderpersons.
Okay, thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
Mhm. Okay. And no further questions. Thank you, Adam, and we will now proceed to new business. First item on the agenda is an proposed agreement with Meeting Tomorrow for computer rentals and services. Who is speaking to this?
I can speak to that, Madam Chair. Good morning, Madam Chair.
Good morning.
Commissioners. This is a recommendation to enter into a contract with Meeting Tomorrow to lease laptops for our upcoming elections in 2022. We will be partnering with Meeting Tomorrow to support our technology needs. They will supply us with 350 customized laptops for a 3-month rental period, beginning May 2022, ending in July 2022. The total fees for this contract is $57,744.25. That has been confirmed and authorized by Kimberly Walker, our finance director.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Not on that, no.
We have worked with Meetings Tomorrow before on the rentals, and everything's been satisfactory?
Absolutely. We've utilized them for the last several elections and we've had no issues or complaints at all.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. If there are no further questions, is there a motion to approve a rental agreement with Meeting Tomorrow LLC for laptop computers and associated equipment and services with for a total of $57,744.25 and with a lease term of May 9th, 2022 through July 18, 2022.
So moved by Commissioner Cressy.
And seconded by Commissioner Brown.
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please state aye.
Commissioner Cressy votes aye.
And Commissioner Brown votes aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a proposed award for Chem Staffing Central Office RFP. Opal, is this you again?
It is me again. Thank you, Madam
Okay.
Chair. This is an ask to approve a contract for temporary staffing services for here at our central office headquarters. As you know, we have a separate contract for our warehouse services. So this is the first time that we're actually entering into contracts for central office headquarters and that we've done an actual RFP procurement process. So that ask is to enter into contracts with 4 agencies: Robert Half, Mack and Associates, LaSalle Network, and HB Staffing, which is a certified minority and business enterprise. Just a little background on this. The central office headquarters is in need of temporary staffing help for our upcoming 2022 and 2023 elections to assist with various assignments during our election cycles. These assignments will consist primarily of administrative positions, including phone operators, data entry clerks, clerical staff, mailroom assistants, assistant trainers, customer service representatives, and technical support personnel. I issued an RFP for these services on March 15th, 2022. A pre-proposal meeting was held on March 23rd, and proposals were due March 31st, no later than 10 a.m. As a result of this solicitation, I received 9 proposals for these services. 2 of the 9 were late and deemed non-responsive. The remaining 7 proposals were reviewed, evaluated, scored, and ranked by our evaluation team. 4 of the 7 scored high enough to move forward for this recommendation of award. The term of this contract will begin April 27th, 2022, and expire June 30th, 2023, with 3 one-year options to renew. The contract not to exceed amount is $750,000. Again, that has been confirmed and authorized by our finance manager, Kimberly Walker.
Thank you. Do the commissioners have any questions?
I do. This is Commissioner Brown. Regarding the 750,000, I see that or maybe it's just me, but there are 4 different vendors. How much is each one getting, and what are their particular scopes of service that they're meeting? Do we know that? The contract that seems a little less detailed than the others, and that's why I have a concern.
So this would be a pool of vendors that our department managers could select from. I'm sorry?
As needed, is that what you're telling me?
Correct, as needed. And so as we went through the evaluations and scored them, there were the 4 that were the top, and their scores were so close, it was hard to make that cutoff. So all 4 made the cutoff. And all 4 kind of specialize in different types of services. For instance, Robert Half more on the warehouse side and some on the administrative positions. Mack and Associates, we're hoping, can pick up some of the technology needs that we need as well. And LaSalle is the first time that we've worked with them along with HB. Again, they're a minority company, and it's good to have that representation in the pool. So I envision it as we'll have 4 contracts. We'll be able to utilize them as we need, as you stated. And that dollar amount will then come and be spread amongst as the purchase orders are issued.
Okay.
If I could throw one additional detail, we're really talking about a $750,000 allocation for temp staffing that's in the budget. And so contractually, because this has gone out to bid for an RFP, doesn't necessarily have to be limited that way between the parties, except for that we've got a budget line to watch. If for any reason we were to need more than that, we could go back to for a budget amendment and so forth. But what's important is that Opal, Ms. Walls and Ms. Carrillo Walker work together to monitor so that all 4 of these contracts don't exceed that amount, because that's what's presently in this year's fiscal budget.
And Robert Half is the one we're using for the warehousing, right? The 1.8.
As well. And that's a separate budget that they have at the warehouse.
Right, 1.8. I remember that one. Okay. Let's see if there was any other question.
Did you write it down? I'm gonna send it to you.
Okay. All right, I think for me, that's it.
Ms. Walls, and so then it will be our managers who will decide from which of the agencies to draw workers on an as-need basis, correct?
Correct. And the agencies are building their candidate pools as we speak right now. And we're finding that they're having some issues struggling with building those pools for various reasons. So again, that's why I think it's good to have 4 companies on this contract to meet those needs in case those candidate pools are a little thin this time.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
If there are no further questions, is there a motion to approve the bid awards from the RFP for temporary staffing at the central offices to Robert Half Fertivity, to Mack and Associates, to LaSalle Network, and to HB Staffing for the 2022 and 2023 election cycles, with a durational term of April 27, 2022 through June 30th, 2023, with a total compensation not to exceed $750,000, and to authorize the executive director and procurement officer to take any necessary action to secure these services from these respondents to the RFP. Is there a motion?
Well, so moved by Commissioner Cressy.
And seconded by Commissioner Brown.
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please state aye.
Commissioner Cressy votes aye.
Commissioner Brown votes aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the approval of a professional services agreement with Susan Casey for e-poll book and election central support.
Yes, Madam Chair, I can speak to that. Ms.
Thank you.
Casey, she was on contract with us in 2020, and she assisted with the tabulation and testing of the voting equipment with the e-poll book, assisted with training for the e-poll book, helped manage e-poll book post-election reconciliation of files at the warehouse, and she's also creating documentation for the transitioning to turn over to our staff at the warehouse. I just really felt that this being my first and Sandra's first election as director and assistant director, we just wanted that more support. ES&S is there, but they have duties that they're doing, and our staff, we wanted to just make sure we had someone in place who was real familiar with the system, so that we are very assured that this e-poll book is going to continue to work for us.
Right. Are there any questions?
Yes, Charles, excuse me. But Ms. Casey, you said she's familiar with the system. She's familiar with us as well. She's worked with us in the past.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, she has. At one point, she was an employee with ES&S.
Right.
She's no longer employed with them, and we brought her on as a contractor to help keep servicing our e-poll books and training our staff.
And our interactions with her have all been satisfactory as well.
Yes, they have.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. If there are no further questions, is there a motion to approve a professional services agreement with Susan Casey for services related to the board's e-poll book system at the rate of $100 per hour, not to exceed $100,000 over the term of this agreement, which is from May 2nd, 2022 through April 28th, 2023.
So moved by Commissioner Brown.
Seconded by Commissioner Cressy.
Okay, properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please state aye.
Commissioner Brown votes aye.
Commissioner Cressy votes aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a legal report. Mr. Lasker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a few points I want to highlight. Our ballot department has done a nice job in taking petitions for local precinct referenda. They've done an apparent conformity review. They brought that to me this week, and I was able to review their work. And we're all in agreement that of the few petitions that we have received this election cycle, everything is in apparent conformity with the election code. So those questions will be going on the ballots without any further apparent conformity action needed by the board. Just want you to know I've been talking with attorneys from the county clerk's office, and we're all moving forward cohesively with nursing home voting. You know, our staff did a survey of the nursing homes in Chicago to see how they felt about us coming in for the in-person nursing home voting. As you'll recall, in 2020, for both elections, because of the severity of the coronavirus pandemic, we had to go to court to get court orders relieving us from the in-person duties there. But I'm happy to report that everybody's feeling comfortable now for the June election to move forward with the in-person voting in the nursing homes. And so that's what we're going to do there. Finally, as you know, we're preparing for an electoral board meeting this Friday afternoon. And I'm pleased to report it does look like we will be dealing with all 7 of the remaining cases. We have final reports in from 6 of those cases so far. I should say actually 5 of those cases, and then 1 of them is an objector withdrawal. That one remaining report is from one of our stellar hearing officers who's definitely going to get it in on time. So I'm very confident we'll be all done on Friday. Some of these cases still within the time period for filing Rule 20s, but none received yet. So it's been a quiet cycle. We'll hope it stays that way. That's my legal report for today. Thank you.
Thank you. There are no questions. I will proceed with the financial report today. We have a balance sheet and voucher listing for the City of Chicago, a 2022 appropriation number 22-03, dated April 26, 2022, in the amount of $606,456.83. Is there a motion?
So moved by Commissioner Cressy.
And seconded by Commissioner Brown.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please state aye.
Commissioner Cressy votes aye.
Commissioner Brown votes aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. We also have a balance sheet and voucher listing for the County of Cook, a 2022 appropriation number 22-03, dated April 26, 2022, in the amount of $524,626.05. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved by Commissioner Brown.
Seconded by Commissioner Cressy.
Motion motion has been seconded. All those in favor, please state aye.
Commissioner Brown votes aye.
Commissioner Cressy votes aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Now we'll proceed to public comment. Trish?
Yes, the only request for public comment that we have is Mr. Don Olson.
Yes. Good morning, Mr. Olson. How are you?
Good morning. I'm fine. Hello, everybody.
Good morning.
Morning, Don.
Hi. I would like to bring up an issue that Adam Lasker and I discussed quite a bit in 2020. And I think we discussed it for the primary, but we really discussed it for the general election that year. And it involves early voting and result tapes in the polling places at early voting. Do you remember that, Adam? We exchanged quite a few emails about that. So my concern was the way we left it in 2020 was that poll watchers would be able to get result tapes in the early voting centers on election day, but just for election day, not for the period of early voting. And what I didn't realize back in 2020 when we were discussing this was that different cartridges, that the early voting cartridges would be taken out of all the early voting machines after the last day of early voting, and new cartridges would be put in just for election day. So here's my issue, and I'm assuming that nothing has been done about this since 2020. But if something has been done or a new procedure is in place, stop me. Don't let me go on. Here's my concern. So back in the day, the way this worked, and the first time I was a poll watcher, I was 18 years old, and this is how it worked. Of course, these were the days before early voting. So what happened in a polling place on election day was obviously there would be all the votes from election day, plus they would bring the absentee votes unopened to each precinct, the precinct to which they belonged on election day. And all the ballots would be counted, would be opened and counted in the polling place on election day, and the poll watchers would be able to see all this happen. The poll watchers would then get the numbers and report them to their candidates or their organizations. And then we could take the numbers that we got in the polling places on election day and compare them to the numbers that the Board of Election published to make sure that those numbers matched up. And that was an important check on the system. And that actually is the most important thing that poll watchers did once upon a time. They watched the count of the votes. That's the most important thing that poll watchers did. And we could compare the numbers we got in the polling place with the numbers that were reported by the election board. So my concern about the way we're doing things now is that with early voting, what happens is we do not run results tapes in the polling place in the presence of the poll watchers. What happens is those cartridges are taken out of the machines, taken to the Board of Elections, and counted starting after 7 p.m. on Election Day. My problem with that is that as a poll watcher, I don't know what's being counted at the Board of Elections. That violates one of the basic principles of a valid election, and that is that votes should never be moved from one location to another until they're counted. So back in 2020, I brought this up to Adam, and I wanted results tapes of early voting actually run in the polling place, where poll watchers could get those tapes and see for themselves that those tapes actually came out of the machines that they knew were in the polling place during early voting. So the way we left this in 2020 was that the election day cartridges could produce tapes in the polling place, but not the early voting cartridges. So I'm wondering if we can move towards some sort of a system where those early voting cartridges are counted in the polling place. I mean, to me, the easiest way to resolve this issue, and I don't know whether this needs to be done by changing the statute or whether it could be done just procedurally, and it may require changing a statute. To me, the easiest solution is don't change the cartridges, just leave the same cartridge that has been in the machine all during early voting, leave it in the machine for the election day voting in that early voting site. And then
Okay, I think, John, there have been vigorous head shakes when you said that we leave the same cartridges in the early voting machines for election day. That's one thing, and the people who are vigorously shaking their heads have all the experience and knowledge here. And secondly, I believe that there is a statutory issues here that there would have to be legislation that would have to be changed. So we will, review and look at your comments and suggestions, and we'll I think.
I wish you seriously would, because you as the board could get this legislation changed. But do you understand that what I'm saying is that this
I wish that were true, because if we did have the power to get all the legislation we wanted, we would be very, very pleased. But that it's not as simple as you said. But
I realize.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just throwing it out to you because you are one voice that the state listens to, probably more than listening to me. So I'm just throwing it out to you for your consideration.
Okay.
But this is a very important thing that poll watchers should be able to do, an important accounting procedure that actually is checking the numbers during the process of the election. And it's something that, especially with early voting increasing as a percentage of the vote, it means that an increasing percentage of the vote is not being monitored in this way.
Well, I
So
would,
then-
I would argue with you about that, your statement that it's not being monitored. On the contrary, I think what we're concerned here, it very much with is chain of custody. And, we're taking all the protections we can. And to have to,
No, I
know,
realize that.
well,
And
okay, well then, but that's what I'm saying. I don't think it's, we're treating this, lightheartedly. And, so your statement is not fully accurate. But we will, look at it, take into consideration and, provide our comments, at a later date, not at this meeting. Okay?
Can I just say one more thing?
One more thing.
In response to what you just said, no, I understand chain of custody, but chain of custody is not an appealing concept to a poll watcher because it's an internal thing. And one of the things, I mean, what the poll watchers are really watching is a board of elections to make sure that the board of elections is doing things properly. So
Well, then
internal processes like.
That's why chain of custody should be important to a poll watcher.
This is also very transparent in the post-election canvass process, and these early votes are very much a part of the 5% retab that happens statutorily.
Exactly.
Every post-election canvass, and those events are open to watchers.
And I knew you'd say that. I knew you'd say that, Adam. But the thing is,
because I've said it before.
It used to, because it was right. But an election, we had processes. In my opinion, an election should be monitored while it's happening. That post-election monitoring of an election leaves a lot to be desired, and there's a lot that cannot be monitored anymore. It is what it is in the post-election period when it could have been monitored actually during the election itself.
Okay.
And that if you properly monitor an election during the election itself, there's not as much of a need to monitor it later.
Okay. Well, thank you, Don. Thank you, Commissioner Cressy. The time is up, but we will.
I just wanted to throw this issue on the table again.
Yes.
I'll be bringing this up again and again in various places, including the Chicago Board of Elections.
You got to take it to Springfield, Mr. Olson. You got to take it to Springfield.
Yep.
We're doing everything by the statute.
By statute.
Law.
Right,
Okay.
I understand that. And the reason I brought it up here today was because I know you have some influence in what happens in Springfield. So I understand all that.
At times.
So
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. Any
Lips
other?
to God's ears.
Trish, any other public comment?
No, there have been no other requests for public comment.
Okay. If not, is there a need for executive session, Mr. Lasker?
Not today. Not today, thank you.
Okay. Then I will entertain a motion to adjourn to our next regularly scheduled meeting.
So moved by Commissioner Brown.
Seconded by Commissioner Cressy.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please state aye.
Commissioner Brown votes aye.
Commissioner Cressy votes aye.
Wonderful. Thank you. And motion passes and we are adjourned. Everyone have a good rest of the week.
You too, Chair.
Okay.
Wonderful day,
Thank you.
everybody.